That's right back, Charlie. Definitely.
Because you always use that active when that defending, I think, is like. Because you always use that active when that defending, I think, is like. Because you always use that active when that defending, I think, is like.
People, deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, bro. Come on. Are we live? Of course we're live. People, deluded, I'm back again. First things first, Happy New Year, people. Hopefully 2024 brings you and your loved ones whatever your heart's desires. And obviously, I hope you and your loved ones are in great health. As usual, appreciative of you lot tuning in. Sorry for going live later than usual, people, but I needed to, simply put, be able to be a normal human being, man. I've had enough sleep. The alcohol's worn off. It was a great end of the year / beginning of the year, but now it's time to work. And again, big up you lot, people. Hopefully this year we can get 70,000 subscribers. Big up you lot on Twitch, YouTube, and obviously Twitter. Unfortunately, we ended the year poorly. We lost, 1 win in 5. It feels like we're in a bit of a rut as a football team, really. And question marks are being asked of everybody, the manager, the players, the new signings, individually, collectively. Ultimately, this is what comes with being a title aspiring side. This is what comes with being contenders. This is what comes with the territory. If we really have improved and done all of these sort of things, it's now time to put up and shut up. Obviously, we're going to see what Mikel Arteta has had to say, bit of Arsenal therapy, if I'm honest, me pouring my heart out with you lot, people, and we'll obviously see the latest news. And obviously, any news that comes around tomorrow will be there. Now January the 1st, hopefully Edu has, not had too much to drink yesterday, and he's getting on the phone and bringing in some players, people. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think signings in isolation eradicate some of the issues in the team. I think there's a lot we need to arrest on the training ground, but it would help. Striker, midfield or 2, defensive options or 2. I can't lie. I do feel we need another centre-half. Big up Kirill. I like him. I'm not convinced at this moment, whether you're playing left-back or the opportunities at centre-half. I'm not really convinced. Zinchenko has got an injury knock, but we all know defensively in certain games in the Premier League, he is not required. Benjamin White's form, he's been carrying a knock and we've not been able to rest him. We probably need another fullback, irrespective of Tomiyasu. And probably, Timber's injury, really. So, yeah, and definitely a new wide man wouldn't go amiss. I personally don't know why Smith Rowe didn't come off the bench yesterday. It looked like one of those games where you could play in the pockets, if I'm completely honest with you. And I would say for Smith Rowe, obviously, at one point under Mikel Arteta, you was one of the first names on the team sheet. But from Reece Nelson is being drawn before you, it looks bleak because Nelson can't exactly buy a game, really. There's question marks over our wide men. And yeah, man, it's a bit of a mad one, if I'm completely honest with you lot, man. I've tried to articulate myself by just writing down how I feel. I think that's a good skill we will need in life. In relation to Arteta and Edu, I don't think you're idiots. I think you lot know what we need to do in January. I think if you could, you would have probably brought in some more in the summer. In hindsight, we were treading close with FFP. We had big outlays and new contracts. So maybe there wasn't enough to do, really, or maybe there were some things we was unable to. But in the same way in football on the pitch, it's winning or losing. Did you win or not? I think the same approach has to be applied to off the field, really. Did we bring in enough depth or not? It felt for time that on one hand that we did, but it also felt like a sideward step. Obviously, injuries haven't helped us. And again, in terms of since when Mikel Arteta and Edu and all these guys began this project, the club is beaming again. The lights have been turned on at the club. There's spark. But if I remove that and just look at the last 18 months where allegedly, we've turned up and we're new look Arsenal and things like that, don't forget to smash the like button. I have to judge it a lot harsher. And I have to sit there and say, obviously, I'm not asking for 11 players, and I'm not saying there isn't going to be improvements. I'm not saying there isn't a process. I'm not saying, and when I say process, I mean we're seeing players improve. If we think Saliba, Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, all these guys can be quality players in the future if they're not already, we're going to have to take steps. You know, anyone that's achieved greatness, you know, there was a point where, you know, Michael Jackson, arguably the greatest ever singer, there must have been a point where he struggled to do certain things in relation to being a musician, or Floyd Mayweather at one point probably struggled to do that boxing thing. So there's going to be teething issues. But at the same time, it does feel like we're bringing blunt knives to a gunfight where you look at Liverpool and Manchester City. And I have to look at Arteta and Edu and say, did you really reckon we'd bag enough goals this season? You know, football's decided in both ends of the field, defensively and obviously in the final third. Did we reckon we bag enough goals? Because fans can sit here and say we've got different goal scorers, etc., etc. Goals are spread out among the team and whatnot. I don't think they're wrong. But if we look at it harshly, who's really got that pedigree of scoring goals? At this moment in time, I would say if anyone, it's probably Bukayo Saka. He's done it the last 2-3 years. You know, it's probably another debate. The fact that we're sitting here, give or take, you know, our top goal scorers is now Saka with 6 goals in the Prem and Eddie Nketiah with 5. 3 of those came in one game. It's another debate, really, but it kind of echoes what we're talking about. Did we really? And again, we know it's difficult to bring these players in the market and all of this stuff, but did we, you know, we saw what an over-reliance on Bukayo Saka can do. It's literally a bit unfair to the lad in that, yeah, if you play good, you get praised, critiqued if you play bad, but he has to be on it every game, and not a single player in this world could do that, really and truly. Martinelli and Odegaard, that's 30 goals, give or take, in the Prem out the team already, because neither player's got their shooting boots, and they only had one season of really doing that. We love Gabriel Jesus, but a bit like what City clocked from the beginning, and what we're failing to do is that we need to keep Jesus as part of this team and utilize him, but goals win games. There's not really someone you can rely on. I do think Eddie generally has done well when he's deputized instead of Jesus, but if we're honest, it's not levels at this moment in time, you know. And I do think Arteta's got a bit of that Arsene Wenger about him, in that you probably not every player can go on the journey we wish to go on. That being said, Mikel has shown he'll be harsh, not offering Granit Xhaka a new deal, ultimately him leaving, you know. And there's been other, you know, Aubameyang and whatnot, and there's several others, but I do think, you know, we're playing a dangerous game there defensively. You know, if Gabriel and Saliba have an off day, we're in trouble. And also, where you look at Saliba, Declan Rice, Saka, as great as they are, and typically, even on a bad day, you know, give or take, like yesterday, at least for 2 of those 3 players, you could sit there and say they're typically a class above their teammates. But there's 11 players out there. You can't keep having the same 3-4 that are playing ahead of each other. And at some point, you're going to become what you're like, really. I'm not saying there's bad characters, but you're how you are as a person is going to be corrupted. So if the team's down here and them man are up there, at some point, they're going to drop there, really and truly. And everybody has to be given the luxury of having a bad day at the office. The best players have have more good days than bad days, but that has to be said. So, yeah, man, big up for the rebuild. But if this is a new Arsenal, there's new expectations. I'm not saying a man should get sacked if we're not winning the league, but I do feel question marks around depth, about understanding the fine margins, about different ways to play, about changing things in game. These are things that should be there, because I think if we're talking about winning Prems, it's about fine margins. It's not good enough to have all this possession and all of this stuff if you don't put the ball in the back of the net. It's not good enough not to turn up against a very good Fulham side, really and truly, you know. And obviously, I feel on the field, we've been doing a lot of naive things. Off the field, we've also been doing stuff really, give or take. And I'm not saying we did underestimate it, but we've seen the story around injuries probably forever since we've been at the Emirates, and definitely the last 2 or 3 seasons. Like, did we really, again, underestimate injuries and the knock-on effects it would have to the team, people? Obviously, Partey, Timber, Saka, the Zinchenko's, the Benjamin Whites, the Gabriel Jesus's, even the Eddie Nketiahs and Jorginho's, they've all been carrying knocks. And indirectly, if key players are not able to play, obviously we can't play the same way of football. We're running other players into the ground. Ultimately, depth is the name of the game, and we've seen this really and truly, if I'm completely honest. And I would also say, are we really seizing the opportunity that we have in these last 2 seasons, including now, really, where, you know, obviously, I'm not saying we're going to win every game and do things, but you can probably never, well, to be fair, the Leicester season, but last 18 months, give or take, you know, this season, what we've played so far, and last season, it's probably the best time to win a league or do any of that. City are going to hit back, Chelsea are going to hit back, we're also going to improve, but it just feels like we're ahead of this rebuild. It now needs to be something, because at the end of the day, money's been spent, decisions have been made. You know, Arteta is not that there's been many, but Emre was a head coach. You are the manager. You are being given more authority. Ultimately, you're going to live or die by those high standards. Now, I'm not saying they haven't done well, but again, is it enough to win a league? You know, is that is what I would also say. Again, people, I think there's serious holes in our midfield, and it's a weird one, because if you take the 3 midfielders yesterday, folks, and you look at Odegaard, you look at Kai Havertz, and you look at Declan Rice, obviously the whole team was bad and poor and stuff. And within that context, I don't think them three were the worst players on the pitch. And I don't know the answer. I don't even really know the question I'm seeking, but it just feels like something's missing there. You know, Kai Havertz, I don't think he was poor, and we did kind of miss him, which says it all. But where it comes to Kai Havertz, we ain't replaced Granit Xhaka, and I like Xhaka, but we shouldn't be having this conversation, really. We haven't replaced him, really. You know, Kai Havertz isn't a man, statistically he probably does, but he's not going to get on the ball like Xhaka, look to conduct things. He wants to play these neat 1-2s and running behind. Obviously, Declan Rice is on the ball quite a lot, but, you know, he's a 6. He's not really got the you know, he's not like an international 6. He ain't really got that glee on the ball. And obviously, Odegaard's in the game here and there, but it just feels like that midfield hasn't been addressed really and truly, if I'm completely honest. At the end of the day, goals win games, man. To have 1 win in 5, you know, you look at the league table, you're still in and around. Everyone else is dropping points. Everyone else will drop points and will drop points. But we need to arrest these things internally. It keeps feeling like, and I keep saying this, we create our own problems, really and truly. Like, we have made several, even games we've won, we've made games harder than it needs to be. We've not killed games, even games that in the second half we've battered them and things. And I'm not trying to be ridiculously harsh, but the Premier League is harsh. Do you know how harsh it is to demand a team to be looking at 90-odd points? You know, being good, especially with the City team, is not enough, really. It's very difficult. And again, these are the things we need to get on. For me, it feels like, you know, to the fact that our top goal scorer has 6 goals in December, I'm not trying to be reactionary, but it doesn't feel like we fixed the roof of our house while the sun was shining, and now it's raining, and these things are coming to play. You know, we've been dealing with injuries since August, and we've been, you know, treading quite closely, and we've been ticking along. It hits a blip. Now, we knew there was going to be a blip at some point in the season. I'd rather it happen now than later on, but it's about how these guys get through it, really and truly. What's that, 5 or 6 defeats versus what, 3 or 4 last year? We know the context and the environment is different, but there you have it. I think there needs to be more consistency in playing at higher levels throughout 90 minutes. There's too many 10-minute stages. We look on it, then we're off it. I would say lately as well, it's like we're starting games where we're getting an early goal and we're taking the foot off the gas, if I'm honest. I'm really concerned about the left-hand side, a mixture of certain people not being there, Zinchenko's form. You know, Kai Havertz is still evolving, and obviously Martinelli's off his own back. He's playing quite poorly by his own standards. But I also think because that left-hand side is not really fixated and stuff like that, we're in issues. Right-hand side's not doing too much better in that regard. I also feel we need to get back to basics in all aspects, especially defending. You know, we're very fortunate that, in my opinion, it was only 2-1 against Fulham. I was seeing, and maybe that's where you see the naiveties. Like, second half, we was trying to rush things and panic and basic 5-yard passes, and, you know, throw-ins are being messed up, and we're inviting counter-attacks and stuff. We need to get back to basics, especially defensively. You know, we were spot on at both ends where it comes to set pieces and dead balls. That has, in my opinion, probably deserted us a bit, man. And also, we're dropping too many points from leading positions, if I'm honest. You know, we appear very reactive in what we're doing, and I think we need to be more proactive in our approach across 90 minutes. You know, but at the start of the season and generally all of last season, I saw 11 different protagonists. I saw 11 different masters of their own destinies. I saw 11 players who wanted to stand up to be counted. Now, I'm not accusing players of being cowardly and things, but it did feel yesterday against Fulham. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was, or whatever, that everybody's looking at someone else to be the difference maker, which wasn't the case, really, if I'm honest. I don't recognize these players, if I'm honest. The last 5 games, I think the intensity's not been there. They're not playing with smiles on their faces. I don't think we're pressing as good as we can. We're not, you know, standing up tall in our 1v1s. We're not all trying to win our individual battles. I mean, even the star boy, Bukayo Saka's got blonde hair. I don't know what he's watched, who he's hanging around with, but he needs to stop all of that. And that's ultimately why we find ourselves in this mess. Like, we're going to have to get over this rut. We've got no choice but to get out of it. We're the only ones that's going to pull ourselves out of it. But at the moment, I don't recognize what I'm seeing, really and truly. It could be better. It should be better, but it could also be much worse. We need to get on with it, really. We need to forgive ourselves for West Ham in the league and in the League Cup. You have to forgive yourselves for, obviously, yesterday against Fulham. You need to forgive yourselves for dropping winning points from winning positions against Chelsea and Spurs. And make sure it doesn't happen again, really. Because you're making this more difficult than it needs to be, man, if I'm honest. And I was upset, man. I think the players need to look in the mirror. I think for Mikel Arteta as well, obviously, I like how you're moving with the team. I do think ultimately now we're getting into that scenario where we need to start judging you a bit more harshly. You've shown you can do this rebuild thing, whether you're the man to deliver us a Premier League title or something like that. Clearly, until he does it, the jury's evidently still and always going to remain out. But I think you've made your own problems, if I'm honest with you. I feel certain players that are squad players, they're not able to fill into the standard required. I think we've been a bit naive with not bringing in a striker in the summer and a winger and central midfield. We definitely need 2 midfielders. I did feel defensively we was all right. But again, if I'm harsh, Mikel Arteta, if you want to defender now, you probably knew in August you wanted some. So I think a lot of this, ultimately, this is your squad. When it goes well, it's amazing. But now there's holes. Count our blessings. 1 win in 5 is horrible, but we've got no choice but to keep going, man. But yesterday was one of the most disappointing performances I've had this season. For me, first 45 minutes or basically 70 minutes against Chelsea, definitely the first 45. Obviously, West Ham in the League Cup. And also yesterday, man, where we weren't competitive. We didn't play at that high level, you know. And I'm not being harsh to Declan Rice or any of the players, but I think it's a bit dishonest when they come out here and say we played well, would say it in little hints and things, because we know we didn't. Look how some of you lot have played, you know, ultimately it's all defeats. But I've said it before, like obviously I'm disappointed in the Newcastle and Aston Villa and West Ham games because we lost. Ultimately, unless you got 3 points, there's something you could have done better. But the way we lost a couple of those games was very different with Fulham or in the League Cup against West Ham. And that wasn't the case. Fulham, that was a terrible, all we did is, the only good thing we did is score. Liverpool and Newcastle is 1-1. Hopefully that continues. We all know Liverpool are going to do their job in that regards, man. I'm disappointed in our team. Their performance and goals have been lacking in a serious way. Rice spent the whole game offloading responsibility onto White and Saliba. I slightly disagree with that. After 20 games last year, 50 points, 47 goals scored, 47 goals scored, 17 against. This year, 40 points, 37 for 22 against. Huge drop-off. And that's the thing. You need to keep raising the levels. Now, obviously, there's been injuries and things, but that tells you we need to get back to what we're doing. Smash the like button if you haven't done such already. And obviously, Happy New Year to everybody tuned in. The loss of 3 senior technical key players was shown yesterday. Zinchenko, Partey, and Xhaka was crucial to our build-up play last season. Playing without those, we are without leadership and ideas. Timber being unlucky, but our recruitment ain't looking good depth-wise. Plus, Arteta doesn't, in my opinion, utilize the squad properly. If it's not the first 11, he ain't trying to help or switch tactics to help players either. I hear that, but we did switch formation to kind of go for it in the Fulham game. Obviously, again, relying on a blunt strike force to score and get us back in games. There has been times we've obviously come back from behind, but I definitely agree, man, generally. I've been telling my mates Partey ain't coming back till after AFCON, and he isn't going to. I mean, a lot of rumours that he was pushing to be involved against Liverpool and Fulham. Spent 160 million in the summer on the midfield and still not fixed it. Been waiting since Santi Cazorla for them to fix it. Amen, man. There's a running joke with some of my regulars. Every year I've been on YouTube, I've called for a midfielder. And when you deep it, Edu and Mikel Arteta, you lot were central midfielders. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, man. Man said, DG looking sharp, hide your BMs. Come on. See, I managed to fit in where you said don't underestimate Fulham, DG. Jamzo, appreciate that. I mean, I haven't even seen the fan reactions, man, but I can imagine there's a field day, man. You know, 1 win in 5, everybody's trying to banter the guys and whatnot, but we just have to keep going. But I appreciate you lot, people, for doing such. Make sure you're checking out Jay's content as well. We need to elevate our squad to go to the next level. Yeah, this was the worst game. Last year, we played like little boys. We didn't play to our standards. If you want to play, have resolve. We ain't been playing well to the standards they should be. Set piece defending is woeful. As for our left-hand side, I don't know how we can address that. Maybe we need a left-back, but I don't know. Just sad, and fundamentally it is sad. Imagine this team without Saliba, we would be 8-4 or so. Probably, but even Saliba, like, he wasn't good yesterday, man. Like, first off, the only thing I'd accuse Saliba of is, like, obviously he's a wonderful player, but I think sometimes a bit like Zinchenko, he's trying to be a bit too cute and clever. Second half, the whole team, including Saliba, lost their discipline, man. Even down to the foul in the second half where he's pulled a shirt. There was one, I think him and Tomiyasu took a throw in and then we've given away a free kick. We showed a lot of naivety in that game. I do think there's heart in this team. I do think these boys care. But based on what I see on the football field, there was a lot of things that weren't there. And for me, it's more the intensity. Is that because of the lack of depth and having to play? Is that because we've got more games this season? And obviously with the Champions League, unlike the Europa, which, to be fair, Arteta was naming strong lineups in the group stages a year ago in Europe in that. Is that a byproduct? Have we just hit a blip? Have teams found us out? I'm not sure. It's probably a bit of everything, really and truly. DJ, I feel not all hope is lost. We need to set a target of not losing the remaining games. I mean, ideally, not a single team in the Premier would want to lose. We will drop points again. Other teams will, but we need to arrest these issues because obviously if you lose, you'll always... Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but... And it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but if we could have just found the back of the net against West Ham, at best, we've conceded goals. pardon me, if we could have just created something against Newcastle, if we could have put the ball in the back of the net against Aston Villa, if we didn't drop off to the way we did against Fulham. In fact, even before the goals, like, we're very fortunate Fulham only conceded scored 2 goals, because the warning signs were there literally. You know, they had a couple of counter attacks. Like, Fulham's reaction to us scoring early doors was serious, really. And it's like, we didn't read these signs or expect that. These players are mentally tapped out to me. Personally, lapse of concentration, mistakes, and pressure creeping in. Probably a bunch of everything. But then that tells me, if I'm being harsh, not every player can come on the journey we wish to undertake. Then, isn't it, really and truly? Like, it's as simple as that, if I'm completely honest. But should we see what Mikel Arteta said in his press conference, people? On to performance, he said, painful, that's how I'd sum it up. We had the opportunity to be top of the table after 20 games with the consistency that we've shown, and we haven't managed to perform well enough to earn the right to win the game. 3 days ago, we lost a game that we fully deserved to win, but today was a very different story. He then said, we weren't good enough. We simply weren't good enough in ball possession. We gave so many balls away. We didn't have enough rhythm, enough purpose, enough threat. And defensively, we were second best, which is difficult to hear. But Gaffer, you've got to rest that. And I don't think you're lying. We couldn't control them directly. It was so easy for them to win that first or second ball. Again, these are things that the players could actually address and have the opportunity to run. We conceded 2 exact goals like we did against West Ham. And if you do that in this league, it becomes really difficult to win. So again, a mistake made more than once, I guess, becomes a choice. On substitutions made in the 67th minute, when you don't change the result, they didn't work, that's for sure. It didn't work in the first half, and it didn't work in the second half. Throughout 100 minutes, we were never at the levels that we wanted to be at. He then said, no, we weren't efficient enough. We didn't have enough ball speed, enough movement, enough threat. And when we did that, we gave too many balls away, not only when we were playing, but after regaining it straight away, which is the most dangerous moment to give away. When you do that and you don't have consistent momentum, we haven't got set in the final third in the right moments, and you can see 2 goals like we've done, then it becomes very difficult to win the game. Today, we didn't deserve to win the game. We've dropped 11 points in December. That's a madness. Because you drop games in this league, even if you win with 120 points, but in Anfield, we lost 2 points and had a big performance. We lost 3 points against West Ham, but had a big performance. Today was a different story. That's why we feel sad, because we weren't at the levels that we've been at for the other 19 games. That's the reality. I hear that. And he said, on not having a league game for 3 weeks, we certainly need a reset after today, because that's going to be in our tummy for a few days. The game against West Ham felt very different, because you can move on. It can happen. But what happened today cannot happen again. Again, the pain of discipline hurts, but the pain of regret hurts a lot more. If we were disciplined in our performance, we would have went through hell for 90 to 100 minutes, but we would have had the redemption of getting 3 points or a point. We've got regret. Regret that they didn't turn up. Regret that the fans are questioning everything. Regret that obviously the players cared. They obviously worked all week on some sort of game plan, which didn't work against Fulham, and we didn't see that. And you're going to have to live with that and hold that really and truly and try to put it right. Well, you're going to have to put in a way better performance on Sunday, because Liverpool, it's nothing less than that. So he's right, man. Today, it could have been a beautiful way to finish the year top of the league. These are the margins that you have to find balance. It could have been the best day, and it could have been even the worst day, because you have lost the game. But we have to look at ourselves in the mirror, because today is the worst game that we had this season. That's for sure. I mean, one benefit I would say in a weird way is you lot were top of Christmas last year. We didn't win the league. We was top for 200 odd days, but we weren't top on the one day that mattered, game week 38 in May. So keep going. And, really and truly, if people are saying Arsenal's title credentials are over now and it's finished and stuff, there's zero expectation. So you lot, if you are failing to handle any of this pressure, allegedly, it's not a thing anymore, really and truly. On Zinchenko, he said, we don't know. He felt something in his calf, so he could not be available. We'll scan him tomorrow and see how far he'll go in these games. Hopefully, that's nothing serious, because we need every player, people, available. He then said, we need to improve. We want to win games. And in order to do that, we have to improve with players. So after 20 league games, you have the chance to be the best in the league with these players. They're really good, and we're going to continue to go with them. We didn't. We all wanted that. We all hoped that. They are willing to play better, and we all want it. But today, we didn't manage to do that. And that's the pain that we have inside at the moment. Fair enough, Gaffer. He also said it was painful, really. think we've seen that. We've seen that already. So we're gonna have to see exactly. And I think even Declan Rice has been speaking, people, in relation to it as well. Declan Rice on the Fulham defeat. He said, being brutally honest, it's not good enough. The standards that we've set over the course of the season so far have not been met in the last 2 games. The loss at home to West Ham was tough to take, and today we really wanted to bounce back, and we had that on our minds. We really wanted to go out and start quick, went 1-0 up, and then it's about pushing, it's about mentality, it's about desire, knowing you're going to fight for every ball. In the end, they won more duels, won more battles, and sat in tight, and in the end, we weren't good enough. When you're not good enough in the Premier League, you lose games, and it's really a tough one to take. It's easy saying that we should kick on, but Fulham are a good side. We still had plenty of the ball in some chances. Martinelli put one wide, and we had one in the second half, but it's one of those days, and it's really tough to take. You see that we want to be competing for the Premier League. We want to be up there fighting, and the last few results haven't been up to the standards that we've set and the standards the manager has set. We've let ourselves down today, and we've let the fans down. Then he also said, of course, it's not ideal when you want to be a top team, are striving to be a top team and want to be top players. We need to demand more from each other. Even him and Gabriel are arguing with each other. We need to be more demanding from ourselves, push each other more when times are going tough. Times like now are times when we stick together. It's been a great year for Arsenal all round, and we go into the new year with positivity. We play Liverpool and try to bounce back in the FA Cup. Now, I don't think anyone can disagree, man. Big up yourself, S. What have you said? Arteta should be ruthless in squad selection and in the transfer window. Still think we can go top and break the Champions League curse, hopefully. Saka needs to hit the lab with Nani, teach him some new moves. Saka just needs to take that hair out, man. Take them highlights out. Appreciate you, Terry. But yeah, man, we just have to keep going. It's not ideal, but we've got no other choice. We're currently 7 points worse off than the equivalent 20 games last season. This current run of 6 games hasn't started well. So, boy, we're going to have to get with it and get with it immediately. Thomas Partey has not been included in Ghana's squad for AFCON. He stayed in London to recover from his injury. So does that imply that he's going to be out for longer than expected? I'm not too sure, people. Chris Hughton said, and he was named in the provisional Ghana side squad, better yet, Arsenal will treat this injury with caution, and so will the player Partey. This is a big injury for him, the biggest injury he's had. From all the information we've been given, the timelines on his recovery and the caution that will be taken, his recovery will not meet our guidelines for AFCON. So I hope that, you don't go off to AFCON and you're able to participate in the Prem, but I wouldn't hold my breath for Partey. In relation to El Nene, Fabrizio Romano has said he's attracting concrete interest from Trabzonspor, but also more clubs are keen on signing him. He's got interest from Besiktas, Galatasaray, and Saudi clubs, and all of them are exploring the conditions of a move. Don't think we let him go in Jan, but he's probably someone, unfortunately, Mo, that is past their sell-by date at the Emirates. If you haven't smashed the like button, you know what to do. Again, I kind of skimmed through this article in the Mail, people, and it kind of spoke about Arsenal's transfer news, people. He also said they also said, better yet, or Sammy Motba, I assume, there is a willingness to do so, but the constraints of FFP regulations are after a near 200 million summer spend will hamper Arsenal in the window. The club want to add a striker, 2 midfielders, which is music to my ears, and a defender to their ranks before the start of next season. But the January window is notoriously difficult market to operate in. Spending over between 80 to 100 million on Ivan Toney, for instance, would be more amendable in the summer, particularly for Brentford, who are just 4 points clear of the relegation zone. Selling players would provide greater financial leeway during the January window. Eddie Nketiah, Mohamed Elneny, Jacob Kiwior, and Aaron Ramsdale are among the players attracting interest. The signing of a regular goal scorer could well be the difference between Arsenal winning the Premier League and falling just short for the second consecutive season. Saka obviously is our top goal scorer with 6 goals. 2 of those were penalties. Eddie Nketiah has 5. He's the second top goal scorer, and up until obviously we played Fulham was joint, but 3 of his goals came in one game. So we are playing a dangerous game, really. Apparently, Eddie Nketiah has had an initial approach from Crystal Palace in his services rejected by Arsenal. And Martinelli, unfortunately, only has 2 goals. So we know there's a burden to score goals, really and truly. We know currently Zinchenko is carrying a calf injury. Tomiyasu is going to head off to the Asia Cup at some point. Timber is scheduled and penciled in for a return in March. Benjamin White's been carrying a knock, and it's also said contracts talks are still going. We've gone over Thomas Partey, so you can never have too many players, and we need exactly that, people. Apparently, we're hoping Zinchenko's calf injury isn't too bad, but it has knock-on effects. Allegedly, Arsenal are willing to let Reece Nelson depart on loan in January amid interest from Premier League clubs. On loan, what's the point? We need depth. Unless you're bringing in a winger or selling him permanently, I don't see the point in that, if I'm honest. But for what it's worth, it's believed that sides from England as well as top European clubs have registered interest in signing the 24-year-old on a temporary basis in the winter window. The Gunners do not want to lose Nelson permanently, but are open to letting him leave the Emirates for the remainder of the season. Arsenal rejected multiple offers for the Englishman before he penned a new long-term deal in last July, really. He reportedly earns 100 grand a week and was offered the bumper deal off the back of quality performances towards the end of the season. He's played just 87 minutes in the Premier League. And I'm not being funny, but at 24th, we're going to keep doing this loan thing with Nelson, then his future isn't here. Apparently, a new striker is the January priority for Arsenal following their dip. Now, there is also articles that contradict that and say the priority still is a defender, people. We have just 4 points from a possible 15. That is crazy. Apparently, a well-placed source has told Football Insider that Arsenal want a more physical presence in their ranks going forward. We've been linked with Boniface, Ivan Toney, and obviously Victor Osimhen, but it's believed all three players are unrealistic targets for the mid-season window. As we know, Brentford's sporting director and their manager have spoken about Ivan Toney leaving. He's got 18 months left on his deal or something like that as well, people, and he's got new agents. But Brentford going to lose Wisa, obviously, to AFCON. They would have lost Mbuemo to AFCON, but now they're losing him to injury. And, you know, they're going to need Ivan Toney anyways. And also, they're fighting relegation. They're 4 points off the drop. So they might say, you know what, many clubs would have washed their hands of you with the betting scandal. We stood by you. You stay here. You do that Ivan Toney stuff. You might even, you know, get more love from the Brentford fans, and you might get more admirers really and truly in the summer if you get back to business. And the reality is with Ivan Toney, he's not played a kicked a competitive ball this season. So is it really going to be the Ivan Toney mid-season that we're expecting? And you do have to give him the luxury to adapt to what Arteta and the team demands from him. Apparently, Arsenal are looking to offload Partey and Jorginho in the January transfer window and will accept appropriate offers for each of them. So what, if we saw El Nene, Partey, Jorginho, Nelson all gone in January? I don't think this makes sense. Apparently, Partey earns 200 grand a week, and they're probably going to shed that off the wage bill, in my opinion, in the summer. Jorginho's on 110. Parting ways with both midfielders would remove over 16 million from Arsenal's annual wage bill, freeing up space for Arteta to bring in new signings. Arsenal have created a three-man shopping list for January that includes a new defender, midfielder, and striker, allegedly. And it's crazy, but Partey's been, you know, unavailable for us for the majority of the season. We last saw him in October against City. Think about all the football that's passed, not just for Arsenal, but everybody else in that. Who knows? Apparently, Arsenal in contact with Osman Diamande's family as they set up deal. Allegedly, we've been in touch with the Sporting Lisbon defenders family, whatever that means. We wanted the 20-year-old before, and I'm sure he's heading off to AFCON where people will take him in a bit more. Apparently, he's got a release clause of 70 million on a deal which runs until June 2027. So I can't see us spending the big money that is required for him, if that's honest. Liverpool apparently looking at getting Kylian Mbappe. Arsenal, throw your hat into the ring, man. Arsenal have been linked with, you know, Inacio, also Sporting Lisbon, as well as Arthur Vermeeren. And we've previously seen in The Athletic that Arsenal are admirers of Schollerbeck, Bayern Munich's De Ligt, and obviously Gerhi. But these are all big ticket items, people. And it's the same old usual suspects that are linked with moves away from the club. Apparently, we're monitoring the situation of Nordjylland forward Ibrahim Osman from afar. Never seen him play. I'm sure a lot of you lot have. And once again, we're reportedly open to letting Reece Nelson go. So we'll have to see exactly what's going on. What's this? Arsenal have Pedro Neto trick up their sleeve as two teams transfer battle kicks off. Arsenal have been linked with Pedro Neto. We know Wolves are not going to let him go. Apparently, we're open to offering Reece Nelson on loan. I'm all for that. But they're not going to let Pedro Neto go. He's one of the early players of the season, really and truly, for them before his injury. According to CBS Sports, Wolves want to take the winger on loan in January, with Spanish side Sevilla also keen on the 24-year-old. Nelson wants to stay at the Emirates and fight for his place. 87 Premier League minutes, though. At some point, your dream's probably going to have to be elsewhere. But I love the guy, and I think we need to keep him, really and truly, especially if we're not going to bring a winger in. I think midfield, absolute priority. Defense, absolute priority. Striker, absolute priority. It's not that a wide man isn't, but I'd be more happy if we addressed two, or better yet, all three of what I've just said there. So we'll have to see, man. But it just seems like BS, if I'm honest. Again, get used to it, really and truly, Arsenal fans, because there's going to be a lot of that. We're in silly season of January now, but we do need to bring some players in. Happy New Year to yourself as well. Appreciate that. Liverpool are winning 2-1. You expect that. And I'm sorry, people. Some of you might be saying, "Oh, mate, that's why you said you're quitting YouTube. Why are you here at this moment in time?" Big up to everyone who watched the video before commenting. I didn't mean to give anyone a scare, man. realistically, you need to be close to 90 points to win the league. So we need to win almost every single game. I can't see it. There you have it, man. I'm not happy with it and keep fighting to the death, but it's looking like a top 4 figure, maybe a trophy. If we move the Smith, I'll be heartbroken. I can't lie. So will I, man. Hey, DG, I've been watching the Newcastle Liverpool game. It's an amazing game, very end to end. Great way to kick off the new year. DG, if I have to be honest, we ain't winning the league. We ain't getting anywhere near winning the league. Battling for top 4. Can't loan Nelson. We'll have to see, man, really and truly. Hopefully the climate and the sentiment around our football club can improve dramatically, but that can only be served and only happen with getting results on the board, people. And we're going to have to see in that regards. Honestly, who knows? Would you take us winning champs but finishing fourth? 100%. If there's a weird world where that could happen, of course, obviously, you know, I'd be happy about winning the Champions League and gassed and whatnot, and it would kind of paper over cracks, but I would demand that we improve in the league because that would show me that we've regressed. Obviously, you know, I don't know what you would say if it's harder to win the champs or the Prem just generally for teams. I think it's the champs because there's less games, and then, you know, the less games and the more it goes on, the more high pressure. But I think a league is a true performance of a team because it doesn't always tell the truth, but it doesn't lie. And you've got 38 games. DG quitting the Smith Road Defence League according to sources. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, my dude. No, I'm not, man. But at some point, you know, it can't persist, you know, for a variety of reasons. You know, there's a few, the way Arsenal is going at this moment in time, obviously Kieran Tierney's days are numbered at the club. Aaron Ramsdale's days are numbered. In theory, Eddie Nketiah should, and it must be if a new striker comes in. Smith Rowe can't buy a game. It might be the end of that. You know, Reece Nelson's got a new contract and happy, but if another wide man comes in, you're disposable goods, man. Chelsea were moving mad in the league when they won it. There you have it. There you have it. DG, pound for pound, what's our best front three? For me, it's Trossard, Saka, and Jesus. I don't know, man, because when everybody's on song and that, it's amazing. But for me, Martinelli, Saka, Jesus. This club gives same scenarios all seasons. We ain't getting nowhere near the league. Get Jesus out here. Nah, man, we need him, man. You need Jesus in your life, man. What striker would you take realistically? I don't know for realistic because I don't know what Arsenal could do in January, but generally, we'd all love Osimhen. I don't know if we have 100-odd million to spend or if he's willing to join the club. I personally think he rocks up at Chelsea or somewhere, but would love Osimhen, would love Sesko, like Ivan Ferguson of Brighton. You need to give Sesko and Ferguson in particular time to develop. Not against Ivan Toney, not against trying to revisit Vlahovic based on the fact that we tried to sign him once. Like Boniface if we're going to try and quote-unquote gamble. So, yeah. DZ, what's your expectations for the rest of the season right now? I don't know, man. I really don't know. I mean, just fight as much as you can for the Premier League. Obviously, I'd love to win it. Try and fight as much as you can. You know, minimum top 3 finish. You know, not that I'm happy with that. And go as far as you can in the Champions League. And the FA Cup needs to return home. Gabby is finished, in my opinion. Dermot, keep the faith, man. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep the faith, man. Keep the faith. Hey, leave Havertz alone, man. He's actually probably enjoying his most positive period right now as an Arsenal player. I think the problem with Havertz is obviously no two players are the same. And I do think he's looked fairly settled in that 8 role now. But one thing you don't have over Xhaka, and statistically, I'm pretty sure like it will dispel what I'm saying, but you don't get on the board. Your game isn't like Xhaka or like a traditional centre mid. Like if we could find a Santi Cazorla or a younger Jorginho that's actually got some legs and switched on defensively, or bring in a Zubimendi, I think we need that. Havertz's game is, you know, it's more, you know, quick little 1-2s, making those third man runs. He's not really, I know Xhaka kind of role has changed. Well, it changed throughout his time at Arsenal, but I don't think, you know, Havertz, I think it's two polar opposites. I think you can't really go from Xhaka to Havertz in hindsight of what I'm seeing. And I think obviously with Havertz having to settle with Zinchenko's injuries and inconsistencies, with Tomiyasu's injury and Kyrill's inconsistency, I do think these things have harmed Martinelli. But also with Martinelli not doing off his own back, not doing what he needs to do, playing with his head up, showing clarity in the final third. And probably all of our players are overthinking now the attackers, because when you're scoring and everything's well, you know, I'm pretty sure if you ask the striker, sometimes they're not, when they're scoring, they're not even thinking about it. But because they're not confident, I genuinely think we're overthinking chances. But I think that all is why we have that negative cocktail on the left-hand side. The right-hand side isn't doing much. And ultimately, you know, if I'm not really, I think the midfield is playing all right individually, but I think there's something missing between Rice, Odegaard, and obviously Havertz. I think defensively our standards have dropped, and ultimately goals win games. We're not putting the ball in the back of the net. This is not what you want to hear from a team that, like somebody said, you might have to be looking for 90 points, etc., if you want to win a league, man. DG, why do you think Arteta hasn't gone and actually brought an actual number 8 since he's been here and more makeshift players? Honestly, I wish I had a clue, man. I wish I had a clue. It does seem like Mikel Arteta loves multifunctional players who and all of them sort of things, but I really don't know. But we need to address that, man. Maybe he's not convinced, really. You know, you look at the team, there's the attack, you know, Fabio Vieira, Smith Rowe, Havertz, Odegaard, they all can play similar roles, but none of them are really out and out eights per se. Liverpool are 3-1 up. Arsenal fans hoping that Liverpool, you know, kind of suffered what we suffered. It would have been a myth. DG play pro gloves. Got no one to play with, man. Some of you lot tell me I should link up with you lot and start streaming. So we might have to look at that. Happy New Year to everybody in the chat. JC, appreciate that. Still don't know what Havertz does. I can't lie. DG has no presence in midfield. I see what he does, but it's not it's not even with Havertz. It's just I need a midfielder that's on the ball. Games where we're being scrutinized, like Anfield away, where you're gonna have no time on the ball. I think you need a press resistant 8. When we need to kind of force the issue, I want to see that, because if I'm honest with you, I do think there's a bit of an over reliance on William Saliba, on Gabriel, on Declan Rice. I see them on the ball a bit too much, if I'm honest, where I think we need our 8s and those attacking players to really do that. What's your PS5 name? I think it's Deluded Gooner 04. I ain't turned that on in a couple of days still. Like weeks, but yeah. I think it's that. Add the guy, man. We actually need an arsenal of players, fam. We got to look at these players like, oh my God, you're a madman. Maybe he was hoping of one of the 10s would shift into more of an 8 role this season. I reckon you should have done that with Odegaard, really and truly. You know, I wouldn't switch Odegaard and Havertz, but could you make a case of saying Odegaard's better off dropping deeper and Havertz is better off doing the pressing and the off the ball stuff? I'm not sure. Havertz is not progressive enough with the ball. It's so annoying to watch. And that's the thing. Like, I agree. I'm not attacking Havertz, but that's where I look at the manager, because, yeah, you need to improve players, but sometimes you need to accept players for what they are. Havertz has never shown that he's like that. Zinchenko has never shown he can defend. Jesus has never shown that he can bag goals. Why are we going against the grain? Why are we denying what's in front of us to a degree? I will when I go on there, man, my dude. I need Odegaard to be in his Xavi role soon. I hear that. My guy, DG, bless 2024, more money and more wins for Arsenal, G. You're a cheeky twat, but big up yourself. DG, we need a centre-back and a striker, because who we play if, God forbid, Saliba and Gabriel was both injured at the same time? Not a clue, really. And that's the problem, like, I think our squad players, if Arsenal could go in the direction I want to take it, players, and I'm not knocking them for being squad players, because you need a squad. People I would define as squad players to a degree: Zinchenko, Gabriel Jesus, 100%. Tomiyasu, you know, even for a season, if we didn't sell him, someone like Thomas Partey, if you bring in another midfielder and you don't want to progress with him. Based on that, where I think it should be kind of Kai Havertz, really. I think there's too much of a drop-off. I like Nelson, but you're not impacting the game like Saka. And I'm not even trying to boy you. It's just there's too much of a drop-off. Eddie Nketiah, even when, if Eddie isn't really scoring goals, then he's a bit ineffective. He's not really blessed with the 1-2s and the guile. Not really a potent goal scorer. I think the drop-off is too much. Fabio Vieira, I like you a lot, but you're very hot and cold. There's a lot of players, 3-4 games, they're amazing. Then it's kind of indifferent. And if we're winning a league title for at least 25 or aspiring to 20, 25, 30 of those 38 games, you need a high consistency level. People can say what they want, but I think Saka has shown that. I think Declan Rice has shown that. I think Saliba has shown that. In a way, I think Gabriel's got that. I did think Martinelli had it, but he's hit a bit of a brick wall at this moment in time. And I think between Ryan and Ramsdale, I think they're there, man. Appreciate that, man. When I go on my P5, I do lot, man. That's why bringing in the 8 should be a priority, in my opinion. There's an over-reliance on Odegaard to create. Carl Havertz doesn't do enough on the ball, and Rice doesn't take enough risk. I think Rice does take risks, but you're right. But then again, that's not Declan Rice. Obviously, I said it. I believe, I'm not saying Declan Rice will turn into an English Xavi, but I think you will see a better Declan Rice in that a year from now. But in the short to medium term, we need you to do what you did at West Ham. You played 200 odd times for that club, big club, did what he did, won the European trophy. We're not going to snap our fingers, and a man that's played for years and done all of that's going to become this multifunctional 8 or 6. I don't think Declan Rice will ever be, you know, like a wow sort of player, like an Odegaard or something, in breaking the lines and stuff. But you definitely could get more goals and assists out of him. I think Declan Rice has the potential to get 10 goals a season in all comps and things. But we need to get, I do think, I agree with you, there's an over-reliance. And this is the thing, if Saka and Odegaard aren't doing it in particular, we're in trouble, really and truly. Big trouble. Big trouble. Maybe bringing Ruben Neves. Anything can happen, but didn't he quash any of those potential rumours? A few weeks ago? I think there is. And then again, if You know, if I praise Arteta for assembling the squad, but then I have question marks over depth, question marks how we defend, question marks, as much as I like as I said, the trajectory and what we're doing, just being devil's advocate, question marks over the defense, question marks how we're scoring goals, question mark over certain things tactically. You know, a football team is like pieces to a puzzle, and indirectly I can see it, but I also can't see it really. I'm not really seeing at this moment in time the purpose to our play. We're not pressing with the same intensity, let alone together. The ball playing out from the back has had a bit of a teething issues. Midfield up, there's more question than answers. There's question marks over the depth. So as much as I praise Arteta for the rebuild and things like that, if I have question marks about how the foundations are looking, ultimately that falls with the manager, essentially. And there has to be, for most Arsenal fans, I do think, obviously all fan bases have these extremes. I think you've got positive toxicity and you've got just toxic negative. You know, I think those people that are not necessarily honest, you know, not holding everyone to high standards and just lying about everything being positive and always looking, you know, on that one. And I think misery loves company and is very rightly so. The climate should be a bit negative. We've got 1 win in 5, but I think those people that do too much. And then I think there's that grey area where you should be allowed to criticize the players and the manager and everyone else in the same way. Had we have won 5 out of 5, we're top of the table, we took 15 points or however much that is mathematically, we'll be waffling to the heavens. We did assume that this period was going to come. And again, in the defeats we've had or the road bumps we've hit, they've been there when we've won or drawn games, really. You know, when you remove the drama from certain games, and I'm not, you know, saying that we have to be perfect and stuff, but killing teams when you have the opportunity and putting the ball in the back of the net, even though we scored 5 against Sheffield United, that should have happened in the first half. That should have happened against Brighton. That should have happened against Wolves. When you look beyond the drama, with the exception of the City game, because I don't really have criticisms for that, but the drama which led to us beating United, getting something out of the Chelsea game, last minute winners against Brentford and Luton and things, these things are not set. There was errors that we needed to arrest then, and they're just being highlighted because again, we're not doing what we need to do really and truly. Fix the roof while the sun's shining, and we ain't done that. When Odegaard and Zinni ain't really on it, we struggle to create build up, and that's true. But then again, when you go through the whole squad now, who's really playing amazing? So then, being devil's advocate, you have to hold the manager accountable. I think the players are at that point where they need to sort things out themselves. And I'm not leading an Arteta hate campaign, but if I'm saying, Saka ain't looking wavy again, Martinelli's looking dodgy, Trossard's looking dodgy, don't know what's going on with Nketiah and Jesus, Havertz, Rice, Odegaard, I see it, but collectively what's going on there? You know, the centre-halves have stood up tall, but even they dropped off in the second half. Benjamin White, Zinchenko, obviously Tomiyasu just fresh back from an injury. Everybody's looking a bit booky, right? Not really off the last 2 games. That's obviously a reflection of a manager. It's a difficult job as a manager, really. You know, people who write their think pieces about you and stuff. 1 win in 5 and the climate changes. But again, if we win our next 5 or do something in our next 5, then the sentiment changes again. It's a long season. DG, what was the point to sign Kirill? He's young and needs a run of games to settle. I don't get why he's a squad player when he's still inexperienced. I hear that, but at the same time, I 20 million, it looks mad, you know. Right now, even Fabio Vieira and Kirill, I think they're decent players, more so Fabio Vieira, but that's 50-odd million quid, and you're like, oh, could that have been utilized a bit better? Kirill, you're not going to, like, I hear you on the run of game stuff, but where is that coming? Unless Gabriel's form drops off a cliff or Saliba's or something, it's not happening, you know. I do think Zinchenko's been off it a while now, and it's very difficult when you haven't had a run in the team to do your thing, but you didn't pull up any trees against Luton. Definitely didn't against PSV. And rightly so, you got hooked after 45 minutes. So it don't really look like it don't really look like the steady Eddie. I would like him to be a bit like Tomiyasu. Now, maybe his confidence is shot because he knows, you know, had Zinchenko have been fit, he probably starts today. I'm not really playing and stuff. But I must admit, he looks really raw, man. Really raw for someone that's played, you know, in Italy, the university of defending, you know, being capped by his country and whatnot. You know, last season, he even looked raw last season when he's ducked out of the header at Sporting Lisbon, when he came off the bench at Anfield, I'm sure, and just clattered into someone. But then I look at what Chelsea at home, fair enough, Newcastle away. There was times he was looking all right. I know preseason is preseason, but he looked decent in that inverted role. Now I don't see it. Like, for me, I understand sometimes a fullback might invert. The manager's asked a fullback to invert. You might not even get on the ball, but you're trying to mess up the other team's tactics. But Kirill's not really, and I'm not saying you need to be Odegaard or anything like that, because Tomiyasu isn't. He's probably one of the most conservative attacking he's one of the most conservative players we have at the team in an attacking sense. But he showed a 1-2 improvement in the final third. Kirill, when you get on the ball, I don't really see it in the inverted role. When you play as a traditional left back, you look like you can be got at. For me, him and Benjamin White against Fulham, I feel they weren't aware of the runners. I don't think Kirill looks over his shoulder enough. And I know you're not an organic left back, but yeah, you could play a lot better. And we always hear these things about how fast Kirill is and all of these sort of things. You look like a yard off everybody because you're caught flat-footed a lot, man. So, yeah, man. Dermot, you're a madman. You're a madman. We was never going to win every game this season, but Gaffer, the form, some of our players, I have to look at you guys looking booky. It's true. In my opinion, Kirill joined Arsenal at the wrong time. Mentally, he ain't built for the top league. He would be perfect for a mid-table team like West Ham or Brentford. Maybe, but Arsenal came. Is there ever, in life, is there ever a good time to take something that's going to change your life, bro? Like, this is a club that he could tell his grandkids that he's played for and whatnot. Maybe he joined at the wrong time. He probably has, a bit like I feel with Fabio Vieira, and that when you join, Xhaka's playing week in, week out. Odegaard's playing week in, week out. Now you've got Odegaard there. Now you've got Havertz has come into the mix. Partey gets fit. It's an issue. So you're probably all right. But when was the best time? He's got to have been the best time for him. He just don't look levels really and truly. And again, the way we're going in the next 2 years or something like that, I don't want to sell Smith Rowe. But if this persists, Smith Rowe, Ramsdale, Nketiah, Nelson, Kirill, El Nene, Lokonga, Tavares, unfortunately, Tierney, these lot got a cut, man. How slim do you think our chance of winning the league? I don't look at the league table, so I've never mentioned anything about winning the league. What I would say is, word to Arsene Wenger, as long as it's still mathematically possible for any team, then that's exactly what you need to do. You need to keep fighting. Obviously, if Arsenal were trying to fight for the league, then it's been dented. But this is why I keep saying it needs to be a long season, because I don't look at the league table, but based on what you lot have sat there and said, people, what football said. People said Chelsea have been rubbish and all of this, which is probably true, but they're not far from United. People have said United have been terrible, but look where they are on the table. People said Spurs would fall off and all of this stuff. Look where they're in the table. People said Arsenal would fall off and will run away with the league. Where would we be? People said City are done out here. Where are they? Everybody's still in and around everyone. So it's as simple. It's not as football isn't as simple as this, but it's as simple as win your games, man. Win your games and stop shooting yourselves in the foot. When you have defeats, like, in my opinion, West Ham in the League Cup and definitely against Fulham, where there's no positives. We were out for, lost every duel, second best from minute one, essentially. Well, you get past the point of us taking the lead. You just need to be better. But then you look at games like, I don't think there's that would be the only game out of the 18, 19 we've played so far where I say, obviously we've lost more, but they've done us in it, really and truly. They've done us. We've been poor. All the other defeats, Newcastle, Aston Villa, West Ham, I think we've shot ourselves in the foot. I do think no matter what you talk about with City, what you talk about the other oppositions that are fighting for a league table or anything, I do think Arsenal make things harder than itself. You have to control the controllables. What we can control is making sure we defend well, we can score goals, we have the depth and all of those things. We can't control what other teams are doing. We can't control VAR. We can't control, in theory, we can mitigate against it, but we can't control injuries. I don't think Arsenal are arresting everything that they can control. The main problem is that we haven't beaten a single top 10 side this season. Bit harsh. We beat City, innit? And technically, United still there. But I think we've shot ourselves in the foot. Should have got 3 points by turning up against Chelsea. Should have held on to the win against Fulham. Shouldn't have. Well, boy, Liverpool's a draw. It is what it is. But could have done better, really and truly, in that game. Definitely should have taken 9 points off West Ham, Newcastle, and Aston Villa. But there's something those teams did that we didn't. Kirill is being played out of position like so many players. Arteta has to be better, and he also needs to wake up the F up and get the best out of the bench players. I hear that and whatnot, but think about it. If you're Kirill, I'll be real. If I know I'm not getting ahead of generational Saliba and Gabriel in a great bit of form, Zinni's going to play week in, week out. Tomiyasu is going to play ahead of me. If Timber is fit, and when he does get fit, it's peak for me. I'm saying, Gaffer, wherever you want to play me, If I have to play left back, so be it. And I hear you. You're going to look uncomfortable in roles that's not yours. But you're a defender. You should be spot on 1v1. You should be a bit more switched on. When teams try and suss out that you're the one to get, you should stand up tall. He looks nervous. And sometimes I think that nervousness, in theory, can spread to teammates and whatnot, people. Like, you are right. He's not a left back by trade. And I'm not really a fan of him inverting. I know it's the Arteta wants to keep the system and things like that. And as I'm going to sound like a hypocrite, I said at the start that I feel in preseason he looked all right. But I more want to, if he's to play, can he just play like an organic left back? We play too slow and lethargic. Yeah, it is a bit lifeless at the moment. 4-2 Liverpool, boy. DG, let's be honest, the quality of the league isn't the best. If we win 3 in a row, we'll be back in the title race. Got to do it, innit? Got to do it, man. My opinion, we should loan him out to Luton or Crystal Palace. Let's see him with consistent game time. It's true, but at the same time, we're not in a position where we can loan out any defenders, really. If anything, it's got to be Cedric. And even though I don't think Cedric should be here, let alone be utilising him, unless you bring another defender in, you might even just have to hold on to him, really. You know, even Young Waters, if you're not going to utilize Young Waters at fullback in some capacity, I'm not saying we need to dash him in and whatnot. Loan the man out because he's at that stage where he needs to get football. And to be honest, as much as I like our academy graduates, and you know me, I waffle about smash the like button people, all the academy players, I would like, not every academy done has to be glamorous. If we can just bring through a calm fullback that can just be part of this squad, if we can bring through a centre half, that's okay. Not everybody has to do the Saka thing and all of this. Do you think Arteta has got the best out of his playing squad, and can another coach do better? I mean, in general, another coach might be able to do better, you know, really and truly. Unless you're Pep Guardiola, you have to say that. Do I think he's got the best out of the squad? Generally, but this season, no, if I'm honest with you. You know, it's been very topsy-turvy, if I'm honest. You know, at the start, we looked good in the middle. We looked good defensively. We were scoring goals, but we weren't creating enough. I think we've kind of arrested an inability to create chances, but ultimately we're not taking them. And indirectly, that is on Arteta because we haven't assigned a gunman in this team, really and truly. Obviously, I told you to be very volatile with all and be very careful with having multiple goal scorers, and all these players have to arrest their own poor form. But Odegaard, Saka, 30 goals out the window if they're not going to get their goal scoring boots. Why is it looking like Saka, you know, is getting a bit predictable? Why hasn't Jesus been able to do certain things? I do think to a degree he is, but of recent, evidently not. Like, the players ain't got the best out of themselves in the last 5 games, and the manager hasn't, or we wouldn't be talking about what we're talking about, really. There's no competition in the squad, so players are too comfortable. I don't think there's I do think there's competition, but I don't think there's competition in certain areas. The quality of our signings have been poor. People can wax lyrical all they like about Havertz, but we should have never touched him. Never mind players like Eddie. I'm not surprised. Harsh, but not necessarily wrong. What would you say Arteta's speciality is as a manager? I would say the pressing and intensity, really, but that's not even been there. Odegaard just running around like a headless chicken, and Martinelli's clueless. He dribbles with no purpose. They're going to have to arrest that, man. They're going to have to arrest that immediately, man. They're going to have to arrest that immediately. Was never going to win. Oh, sorry, already seen that. Big up yourself. Matthew, appreciate you. This guy's one of the very best YouTubers. Love it and keep going. I appreciate that, Matthew. Don't know if I'm worthy of such praise, but the very fact that that's been a thought of yours shows we're in the right direction. So I'm going to keep going. Rice, I think long-term could be a Vieira type. Hope you're talking about Patrick, but he has a long road to go, but we can't rely on Rice to be something he is. And exactly, and I'm all for developing players. You know, Arteta showing something that these players didn't know they had in themselves. I'm all for all of that stuff, but to a degree, I think you need to accept, man, for what they are, their strengths and weaknesses. Jesus cannot score X amount of goals, but he gives us a lot. So let's use him appropriately. Zinni can, you know, defensively, can't bet on him, but he can give us something inferior in the midfield where he plays there organically averted. Let's utilize him in that role. I do, you know, Eddie, in a degree, could be a squad player, but for me, the fact that I don't know, big him up, because at the end of the day, he's our highest goal scorer out of all the strikers. Like, well, it's only him and Jesus. Up until obviously the Saka scored against Fulham, he was our top goal scorer. But at the same time, or joint top goal scorer, he's not cut out for it, really and truly. Jesus should be the number 2, if anything, up front. I don't know, and I do even wonder on the topic of even a winger. If you sign another striker, does Jesus indirectly become a winger? I'm not sure. Versus signing a striker and a winger. Saka needs Tony to up his game. He can't dribble to the right as there's no one to cross the ball to. Why doesn't Arteta play Zinni in midfield? I don't have a clue, if I'm honest, but there's got to be some deficiency in his game that he doesn't reckon is worth it, or he's, you know, fixated on Havertz and Zinchenko. From a business point of view, obviously you need to, I'm not saying drop Havertz, but in theory, if a player isn't doing the job, they should be dropped. But when you spent 65 million Great British pounds, from a business point of view, the man has to play, really. DG, I'm starting to also have doubts whether we'll even get top 4 this season, as Spurs are looking good, even with their injury crisis. So imagine the form and domination they could have when players come back, which is true. But at the same time, you know, we should use that fear to drive us and make sure that when the teams that miss out on top 4 beyond miss out, we're not one of those. It's the Premier League. Everyone should be like that. Oh, damn, you're really live. Yeah, man. I think this window will get a versatile defender. I don't see us getting a striker this window. I'll be very disappointed if there's no midfielder, man, as well. I'll be very disappointed, very disappointed. But we've got no choice but to keep going, man. We should have invested that 65 million in a winger. I would say an organic number 8, but I hear you, man. Like, it's all assuming Zubamendi wanted to sign, but should have grabbed Zubamendi or something, in my opinion, man. Well, Partey's still injured, but Samuel, I don't think we're going to see him anytime soon. He's not been named in the AFCON squad. Maybe there's a reason behind that, but I don't know. But on that note, though, Happy New Year in advance, people. It's the first day of 2024. So it's only right we went live at some point. Any other Arsenal news, talking points, watch-alongs, you know I'll be on it. Make sure you're checking out the rest of the content. Turn on your notifications. Hope you all have a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, and what's left. And let's have a great 2024, man, really and truly. Let's get to 70K subs. So if you haven't smashed the like button or comment on YouTube, you know what you need to do. Twitch gang, keep doing what you're doing. And big up you lot on Twitter. You lot stay safe, stay blessed. It's been an appreciative video with you lot. I appreciate you lot's talking points. You're listening, you know, challenging opinions, just talking football, man, because that's what the platform's about. You lot stay safe, stay blessed. I'll see you all tomorrow or something, man.
There's always just that active red flag defending. I think it's like there's always just that active red flag defending. I think it's like